Good day friends, today we are to study about the shortest length confidence interval. Now, before we take to this, we take a quick look and a short journey to statistical inference. Statistical inference, as you know, has three broad divisions. They are estimation, testing of hypothesis, and decision theory. When we look at estimation, it is further divided into two parts. One is point estimation and another is interval estimation. Today what we are going to study, the shortest length confidence interval, falls under interval estimation. Now let us take an overview of the difference between a point estimation and interval estimation. When we want to study point estimation, we basically take a random sample from the population. Here the problem is that certain population characteristics are not known to us and we are trying to catch up with the population characteristics using the sample observations which are denoted as x1, x2 ... up to xn, and in short let us call it x card. And based on these sample observations we get a function of the sample observations which we call as the statistic, and it is represented by a Tx vector. And with the help of this statistic, which is a function of the sample characteristic, we try to find out the value of the population characteristics which we call as parameters. Parameters are generally represented as a theta, and statistic is generally represented as capital letter T. Now, this Tx is used to estimate the value of the parameter theta, which is a constant quantity, but it is unknown. Remember that the value of Tx is not a constant. Rather, it depends on x vector, that is, it depends on the sample. So, if you take a sample from the same population and I also take a sample from the same population, our samples are supposed to vary, and so the value of Tx will also vary. So, Tx is not a constant, rather it is a random variable. Now let us look what we are going to do in interval estimation. In interval estimation, once again based on a random sample, instead of finding one single value as we have done here, we actually try to find two observations. One is based on this, which are functions of this random sample. One we call as theta 1x vector and another is theta 2x vector, both of which are functions of the random sample, and we expect that the value of theta falls within these values of theta 1x and theta 2x with a known probability. That means we can tell after the entire work that the value of theta lies between these and these values with a probability of 1 minus alpha. Now this is the theta 2x is the upper limit of the confidence interval. This is called as the lower limit of the confidence interval, and the difference between this is called as the length of the confidence interval. Now let us look further into interval estimation. Because we find out theta 1 and theta 2x where theta is supposed to fall with a given probability, but it does not come to us directly. Rather, we take the help of the statistic Tx and we find some function of some Tx, some function of the random sample which comes through us in the form of Tx, or some of its additional function or a function of Tx whose distribution is known to us, because we know the distributional form of x1, x2 ... xn. So we try different methods and find out some known distribution of Tx, and based on that we actually find two values lambda 1 and lambda 2 such that the value of Tx falls within lambda 1 and lambda 2, and that probability is equal to 1 minus alpha. That means once we know the distribution function of or the density function of Tx, this can be easily determined, lambda 1 and lambda 2. And then from there, using this equation, we come down to find out, after some steps, we come down to find out the value of theta 1 and theta 2x. That is, ultimately we go on to find the value of the confidence interval. And confidence interval means finding the upper limit and lower limit of the interval. And we know that theta will fall with this, with a probability of 1 minus alpha. Now this is very important. Let us look at this. What is the role of alpha? Now this alpha is a small quantity such that 1 minus alpha is sufficiently large. Now as you know, this is a type of probability. So we expect that 1 minus alpha is close to 1, maybe 0.95 or 0.99 or 0.90. This 1 minus alpha is called as the level of confidence or confidence level. So, if my confidence level is 0.9, which is found when alpha equal to 0.1, then we have these theta lying between these two values, theta 1x and theta 2x, with probability 0.9. That means 90% chance that the theta will lie between this and this. But if you take alpha equal to 0.05, then 1 minus alpha is 0.95, and then we have theta 1 dash x, theta 2 dash x, that is theta lie between theta 1 dash x and theta 2 dash x is 0.95. So here you see we have more probability. That means my confidence level in this case is more than the previous one. Here you see this is this theta 1 dash x is not a differentiation, first differentiation of theta 1x. This is just to indicate that this is a different function than this one. Similarly with theta 2. If we take alpha equal to 0.01, then we get 1 minus alpha equal to 0.99, and then we have the probability of theta lying between theta 1 double dash x and theta 2 double dash x. That probability is equal to 0.99. That is 99% chance that the value of theta will lie between these two values. Now from this, if I ask you that which one you feel is better, obviously you will tell that 99% is better, because here you have more confidence. That means the value of theta will lie between theta 1 double dash x and theta 2 double dash x. So obviously you will go for this. But whether it is really true, just to remind you that theta 1 double dash x once again is not a differentiation of theta 1 dash x or double differentiation of theta 1x. This is just to indicate that the function is different from this one or this one. Similarly with theta 2 double dash x. Now coming back to this question, which one is better? You will definitely tell that this is better because this is giving me more confidence. But let us look at this. Here you see there are three individuals. They are walking on a rope and trying to cross from one point to another. Now this person is walking in a very thin rope, so he will have more chance of falling down. But definitely his precision is more. He has to practice it a number of times to be successful. But also there is a high chance of his failure because he is doing a very difficult type of work. Look at this gentleman. His rope is quite fat, quite thick than what happened with the previous case. Now his precision is less. He is doing a much simpler job, but he has more confidence of crossing the rope because his rope is giving him a lot of protection. And look at this. This is even more thicker than what you have seen here. So here there is almost no chance of failure, and this gentleman I think can easily cross over through the rope, and there is hardly any chance of failure, but the precision is definitely less. So these are the examples of 90% confidence level, 95% confidence level, and 99% confidence level. Here confidence is less, but precision is more because you will get a smaller interval. But there is 10% chance of failure here. Here the chance of failure decreases to 5% only. The man is more confident now. Precision has diminished to a greater extent because this will produce a more thicker interval. And this will produce probably the thickest interval out of the three. And here there is no chance of failure or almost very negligible chance of failure. The man is very much confident, but there is precision is very less. So obviously out of these three cases, you understand that having more confidence means having a bigger interval. Now when you estimate something, you want your interval to be smaller, as small as possible. But once again, taking a very small interval will lead to more chances of failure. So somehow we have to take a call on that, and mostly you will find that in the most of the studies, they actually report 95% confidence interval because here the chance of failure is less. And precision also to certain extent is maintained compared to the other levels of intervals. So this is what we understand from here. Let us take another example in this regard if the previous example is not clear. I am trying to estimate the total runs that my team will score in a 2020 match with some information which I have from their previous matches. And when I estimate it, I find that in 20 overs in this match, they will score 169 runs. So this is the point estimate. In interval estimate, you see it is first 90% confidence interval estimate is 148 to 189. This is 144 for 1 to 193, and this is 136 to 201. Here you see this is the 99% confidence interval. It is so big that there is hardly any chance of failure. But obviously there is no precision. If I make such a statement, people will not be very happy. They will be happy to see if I can comment on a smaller interval, even smaller than this. So that is what happening in case of choosing confidence interval. Here the interval is much less, much thinner, but there is 10% chance of failure. That means if I repeat this experiment, repeat this estimation 100 times, out of this 100 times, 10 times, I will tend to fail. So this is why we actually choose, or we actually go with, in most cases, with the 95% confidence interval. But there is no fixed rule as such. It depends on how much precision you want in your study and how much confidence you want to be with your study. Okay, now let us go into this shortest length confidence interval. Before that, a very small exercise over here. We have different methods of finding the confidence interval of the parameter theta. The confidence level is same and it is 95%. And through the different methods, I have got 3 interval estimates. This is 1.23 to 2.14. This is 1.02 to 2.38. This is 0.98 to 2.51. Which one shall you prefer out of the 3? Anyone will prefer this one because this one is thinner. Given that the confidence level is same, we will always go with the thinner interval. And this takes us to the concept of shortest length confidence interval. Given the confidence level is same, we will choose that particular confidence interval which is having shortest length. Here shortest length means the upper limit minus lower limit, and this is shortest in this case. So accordingly we will go on with this. Now let us look at this shortest length confidence interval. So here what we have, if we have the value of theta lying between two statistic, that is theta 1x and theta 2x with confidence level 1 minus alpha, then this, that is theta 2 minus theta 1x, this gives me the length of the confidence interval. And given that we are to find out those values of theta 1 x and theta 2 x for which the length, that is L, is minimum. So that is the purpose of shortest length confidence interval. And let us take up 2 illustrations, and this will help me to understand how it actually works in a real situation. So let us take up this example. Let x1 x2 dot 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 xn is a random sample of size n from a normal distribution with population mu and sigma square. Importantly, sigma square is known. Find the shortest length 1 minus alpha level confidence interval for mu. So it is given that 1 minus alpha is the level. Now let us look at this problem. We start the problem. Since sigma square is known to us, so we have x bar follows x follows normal distribution. So x bar minus mu sigma by root n. This is the distribution of x bar. Will follow normal distribution with mean mu and variance sigma square by n. So accordingly these will be a standard normal distribution. This we take as the pivot. Pivot is nothing but the starting point. Based on this pivot we will find out the lambda 1 and lambda 2 values, and based on this lambda 1 and lambda 2 values we will later on find out the value of theta 1x and theta 2x, as we have seen when we studied the theory of this. So we start at this point, that is we take lambda 1 and lambda 2 points such that the standard normal distribution is equal to 1 minus alpha. So this is, we go on to find this, and this is capital phi. This is the cumulative density function, cumulative distribution function of a standard normal variate. So this is phi of lambda 2 minus phi of lambda 1. This is equal to alpha 1. So this is equation number 2. So you go on to the next step. Now we start from this. So accordingly we have these values, that is then we just cross multiply, and then ultimately after some simplification we reach to this stage where we have two statistic. One is involving this, another is involving this. So this one is involving lambda 2 and this one is involving lambda 1. This is equal to alpha. We call this one as theta 1 x vector and this one is theta 2 x vector, where we have defined what is theta 1 and x vector and theta 2 x vector, and we have named this as equation number 3 because we will refer to this equation later on. Here we start with, actually this is our starting point. Okay. Now this is the shortest length confidence interval. This is the length of the confidence interval. I want to make it these are values of lambda 1 and lambda 2. It is to be chosen in such a way that this L is minimized. So that is the purpose of the shortest length confidence interval given the condition in 2. So this is our equation number 2. Based on this equation we are to diminish the shortest or find the shortest length confidence interval. Now we start differentiating this with respect to lambda 1, and so we reach this stage from equation number 4. So this is our equation number 5. Now from 2 we differentiate both sides with respect to lambda 1. So this is my equation number 2. When you actually solve this, you don't need to write it because we just wrote it in order to avoid to moving to backward slides which has equation number 2, which is which we have already bypassed in order to save time. So we start at this point and then we differentiated this with respect to lambda 1. Remember, this is a partial differentiation. This side is having 1 minus alpha, which does not involve lambda, and so the differentiation of this is 0. And here we differentiate it. So this is capital phi, which is the cumulative distribution function. When you differentiate with respect to lambda 1, we get small phi, which is the PDF. So if you look here, where capital phi is the CDF and small phi is the PDF of the standard normal distribution. So accordingly we come and reach here. Now let us look at this. So ultimately we come from the previous step, we just cross multiply to get del lambda 2 by del lambda 1 equal to phi of lambda 1 divided by phi of lambda 2. This we call equation number 6. Now substituting 6 in 5. So this is our equation number 5. So in del lambda 2 by del lambda 1, in this part we are just substituting this value. So once we substitute this value, we get this, and equating it to 0, we get ultimately that phi of lambda 1 is equal to phi of lambda 2. Now this may happen only in two cases, as you can see here, that this will happen either if lambda 1 is equal to lambda 2 or lambda 1 equal to minus lambda 2, because here we are dealing with a standard normal distribution, and in case of a standard normal distribution is uniform distribution, symmetrical distribution, and since it is symmetrical, so these are the 2 points where the equality holds. But we cannot take lambda 1 equal to lambda 2 because this is the condition on which we are minimizing this finding the shortest length. In this condition, if we take lambda 1 equal to lambda 2, then this value will become equal to 0, but this cannot be 0. It should be 1 minus alpha, something like 0.99 or 0.95. So this cannot be 0. So this possibility of this is not, we reject this possibility and we actually go on with this possibility. Now if we look at the graph of this normal density, then we find that this will hold for the value z alpha by 2. So accordingly, in the formula for the confidence interval, in place of lambda 1 and lambda 2, we now replace the value of z alpha by 2, and accordingly we get this and this. So this gives me the shortest length confidence interval for the mean mu of a normal distribution when sigma is known to us. Let us take up another illustration. In this illustration, we have x1, x2 as a random sample from an uniform distribution with upper limit as theta and lower limit as 0, and we are to find the shortest length confidence interval for theta. So we start similarly, and then here we take this nth order statistics as the statistic with the help of which we will proceed to find the shortest length confidence interval. For doing this, we find out t equal to xn by theta, which is a pivot. This is the nth order statistics by theta as the pivot. We know that for a uniform distribution with PDF of the nth order statistics is given by, so this is the PDF of the nth order statistics for an uniform distribution, and we want to find the distribution of T. For that we make a small transformation of Jacobian, and ultimately we find that the distribution of T comes out to be nt to the power T minus 1 with T lying between 0 to 1. So these will take as a pivot, and with the help of these we will try to find out the shortest length confidence interval. Like the previous case, we start up with two values, one is lambda 1 and lambda 2, in such a way that the confidence interval is given by this. So this is why we are choosing this instead of not lambda 2 or lambda 1, because the answer comes from here. That means we are taking this as the pivot. So theta is the unknown quantity. So that's why we take lambda 2 in the denominator and not as a product in the previous case. Okay, so these are the two values, and xn we know that this is the nth order statistics. So we are to find out lambda 1 and lambda 2. Now the length of L is this, and for that we actually try to find out that the value of the shortest length confidence interval L is this. We take xn common, and this is the shortest length confidence interval. So we have to determine lambda 1 and lambda 2 such that this value of L is minimized. So for that we have some condition at hand which you require to satisfy, that the density function of ht dt, if we integrate within the values of lambda 1 and lambda 2, that should be equal to 1 minus alpha, because we are in search of 1 minus alpha shortest length confidence interval. So we integrate this. This is definite integral with lambda 1 and lambda 2, and after some steps we reach to equation number 6. So we get this equation. Okay, now we have this is our equation number 6. Now this equation number 6 indicates that lambda 2 is to the power n is greater than 1 minus alpha, because 1 minus alpha plus lambda 1 to the power n is equal to lambda to the power n. So if we withdraw this, then lambda 2 to the power n is greater than 1 minus alpha. So lambda 2 is greater than 1 minus alpha whole thing to the power 1 by n. And remember that lambda 1 and lambda 2 both are less than 1. So this is less than equal to 1. And then on transformation we get taking the nth root, nth power in both sides. We have lambda 2 to the power n is greater than 1 minus alpha. Also from this equation, if we take lambda 1 in one side and 1 minus alpha in the other side, we get lambda 1 to the power n equal to lambda 2 to the power n minus 1 minus alpha. Now this we call equation number 7. And then what we do is that we differentiate both sides with respect to 7, and then with respect to both sides of equation number 7 with respect to lambda 2, and then we have this. So we are differentiating equation number 7, and then we reach these, and then just you cross multiply, and then you get this ratio, that del lambda 1 by del lambda 2 equal to lambda 2 to the power n minus 1 and lambda 1 to the power n minus 1. Now differentiating both sides of equation number 5 with respect to lambda 2. So this is equation number 5. So we differentiate both sides with respect to lambda 2. As you can see, here is lambda 2. So differentiating both sides of equation number 5, this is our equation number 5 with respect to lambda 2, we get this, and somewhere in the middle we get this expression. Now this value of all this expression is already available with us from equation number 8. So we actually replace this value there, and then we find that this is greater than 0. As you can recall that lambda 2 to the power n plus 1 will be more than lambda 1 to the power n minus 1, which is also stated from equation number 6. You can have it from equation number 6. So accordingly this term will be negative, so this will be less than 0. Now if we want to concentrate on the minimum value of this, the minimum value of this is attained when we take lambda 2 equal to 1. And if we put lambda 2 equal to 1 in equation number 6, which is available here, then we get lambda 2 equal to 1 gives me this expression. on simplification. So this is actually giving me a value of lambda 1, that is lambda 1 is equal to alpha to the power 1 by n when lambda 2 is equal to 1. Now if you remember that our this confidence interval, shortest length confidence interval was this, but we were in search of the values of lambda 2 and lambda 1. Now we know that my lambda 2 is equal to 1 and lambda 1 equal to alpha to the power 1 by n. So we just replace this. So we reach a stage where we can conclude this exercise. So we reach and find out the shortest length confidence interval, and the shortest length confidence interval is given by L equal to xn minus alpha to the power 1 by n, which is obtained by putting alpha to the power 1 by n in place of lambda 1 and 1 in place of lambda 2. So this is the shortest length confidence interval for the parameter theta, which comes from an uniform distribution with upper limit as theta and lower limit as 0. So this is how we solve this problem. There are several other ways, several other problems in this regard, but the process or method of solution is almost the same. So thank you for watching this video. If you want to have more discussion on inferential statistics, you may please write to me so that we can have further such classes. Thank you for watching once again.